Mr. Speaker, as the author of legislation that awarded the Congressional Gold Medal to the Women Air Force Service pilots, better known as the WASPs, I rise in strong support of this bill, H.R. 4336, the Women Air Force Service Pilots Arlington Inurement Restoration Act, presented by my great friend and colleague, Congresswoman Martha McSally. This legislation seeks to restore eligibility to these brave women pioneers for burial at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. The WASPs were the first women in U.S. history to fly our military aircraft. During World War II, a time of great global conflict, these courageous women volunteered to fly non-combat missions so that every available male pilot could be deployed in combat. The WASPs served our nation without hesitation and with no expectation of recognition or praise. More than 25,000 women applied for the program, but only 1,074 selected women earned their wings. Between the years 1942 to 1944, the WASP logged more than 60 million miles. With the exception of direct combat missions, the WASP flew the same aircraft as male pilots. And although they took the military oath, the WASPs were not recognized as military personnel for their time in service. Their patriotic contributions went unrecognized for many decades. It wasn't until 1977 when Congress granted them veteran status. And then in 2002, the Arlington National Cemetery decided to allow the WASP, among others listed as active duty, to receive benefits consistent with the status that they had so rightfully earned. Unfortunately, last year, the Department of the Army rescinded this decision and ruled that the WASPs were ineligible for burial at that site, citing a lack of space. This is simply unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. These women deserve to be treated honorably, and our military branch should allocate the necessary space to accommodate these courageous women who sacrifice so much for our country. We cannot just consider these women to be ineligible. These honorable women answered the call to serve during World War II. They did not turn their backs on the American people, nor on their fellow servicemen. Their rights at Arlington National must be restored. We have to do this for the present and future generations to come. Today, women in our military fly every type of aircraft, from the F-15 to the space shuttle. And I know this because my daughter-in-law, Lindsay Ros-Lehtinen, has flown combat missions both in Iraq and in Afghanistan for the Marines. This opportunity was afforded to Lindsay thanks to the service of the Women Air Force Service pilots. They were the trailblazers. They set the stage for women in the military, and I have been fortunate enough to personally meet some of these heroic women. As pictured in this poster, I presented the South Florida WASP Ruth Schaefer Fleischer and Frances Sargent with copies of the bill that I introduced and passed in Congress with the help of Susan Davis, and which was signed by the President, that honored the invaluable contributions to these heroic female pilots. We had this celebration at the Wings Over Miami Air Museum, which has served as a foundation for our community to learn more about veterans and aviators, including our proud WASPs. Throughout my years in Congress, I've also had the pleasure of meeting other South Florida WASPs, including Shirley Cruz, pictured here, Bee Haydu, and Helen Wyatt Snap. And although Frances and Helen are no longer with us, they still live in our hearts and in our minds. And they are embedded in the rich history of our great nation. Mr. Speaker, we need to do what's right for our valiant, patriotic women and their wonderful families. The House Veterans Affairs Committee will bring up Congresswoman McSally's bill tomorrow, Thursday, during a markup, and I encourage all of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support and pass this important and necessary bill so that we can continue to honor these women pioneers. These women must receive the recognition that they are due. We must give them back the right that they earned to be buried at Arlington. Thank you very much to these brave patriots. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.